Alright. I think that's about right. I just wanted to come outside, just to be outside, I suppose, and prove to people that I can go outside, right? Going just been going like stir crazy just in my own house, just doing a whole lot of nothing all day, you know? It's not a good thing to do. But you can look here. This is like some abandoned like warehouse or something. I'm just kind of found myself upon. But yeah, pretty cool spot actually. I just kind of like I'm not sitting on anything sharp. But I wanted to talk about like something that I guess is I've kind of neglected to as far as this point. Inceldom, being an incel. I suppose by definition I am an incel, right? Where it's like I am involuntarily celibate in the sense that I would like a romantic relationship with a woman, and I don't have that, and I believe there to be some unfairness to that. Hold on, let me adjust this so maybe I don't look like angelic, you know? This might be a little better. I don't know about the line right here. That's better. I think that actually does a lot better. But I'm just in like a fucking warehouse. It's like I'm not like I want people to understand I'm not like a woman, like I don't despise women. It's not like that, you know. That's not even what inceldom's about. It's not like just like I hate women, you know. It's more just like for like lonely, unattractive, and socially like outcasted men to have a community to speak to each other, you know, because that really hasn't existed. There was no like networking for unattractive men to be like with each other, you know. That sounds gay. I mean, to talk to each other, network with one another, right? But I mean, by definition, I am an incel, but I think I differ from a lot of them because the main like goal for me, fucking thing flying around. The main goal for me in life is not to like have sex and end my celibacy. That's not like the goal. You know, I would much rather just have like a romantic relationship with someone and have the sexual aspect of that um, as a secondary. You know, that's just something that reaffirms love, which is quite a silly thing to really think about now. That to have such like a childish ideal of love, you know, this like fairy tale sort of love thing, you know. Sorry, there's. I think it's like the end of the school year for like the kids in the schools, so they're all like partying or whatever. It's kind of distracting me, but I suppose that just, hey, retard, why don't you just film inside? Sorry, it's held on a plane. The stand I'm using. But I mean, I guess I'm like incel adjacent or like empathetic. I'm an incel ally, you could say. Because obviously I'm not like horrendously ugly. I don't think I'm like unattractive. But I also don't think I'm attractive enough to where females will look at me and then when they get to know me as a person and understand like my mind and my personality, um, I don't believe that would like attractiveness would then compensate for it, you know, because when you get someone who's like a weird like quiet loner, then they just be like the quiet weird kid. But when you get someone who's like a weird quiet loner, but they're also incredibly attractive, um, they'll be mysterious and cool, and women will want to know more about them. Um, it's like like talking over there, and like some fucking cop is gonna come up and like, hey, you're trespassing. Which I'm not. I didn't notice a trespass warning at least, so I believe I'm fine here. It's like a mosquito. Fuck off. Hmm. Dude, there are so many mosquitoes on me. Oh my god. Sorry for being distracted here. It's just like, wow. Well, Texas, right? Yeah, but what I wanted to, okay, it took 6 minutes to actually get into the main concept here, but like like an idea, to me, I believe women have so much power over men because they are sexually attractive to men, and for men to not base their decision making entirely around women, and how women will perceive them and how they want women to interact with them and have sex with them, right? I believe they need to like devalue sex as like a currency and like a status symbol. And this is probably just going to sound like a bunch of retarded cope from a hugless, kissless virgin, but to me at least, when you've been deprived of sexual interaction for so long, um, obviously you live without it and you learn to live without it. And what needs to happen is that people who are like me and who don't have sex and who don't have girlfriends and can't get them because they're either too like socially retarded to do so or just simply unattractive, um, they need to realize that, you know, it's not the end goal, and it shouldn't even like be particularly important in the first place to like copulate, you know. It's just like it's not something that is important. It isn't. It's simply a part of a relationship. It's one moving piece to it that should not be the end goal, you know. Um, but the thing is that people want it so badly because it's pleasurable and it feels good and it's a status symbol that they will completely derail everything to acquire it, you know. And that's where this concept of like militant asexuality. Hold on. Gotcha, fucker. This like concept of like militant asexuality comes from, where it's like it's you need to disregard the desire for sexual interaction and more focus on romantic and intimate interaction without obscene sexuality to it. Um, I despise sex, or at least what it represents. I kind of despise a lot of how culture has become so obsessed with sexuality and obscenity. Um, and even before like the rise of like alternative sexual like orientations, um, which, you know, I don't agree with. It was still, I mean, it was a token status symbol that was so important that everyone needed to acquire. I've been laughed at more than once for my virginity, and that's obviously something that does not sit well with me, because that's, you know, there was a time in which preserving your virginity was almost noble, you know, whereas like you would like people didn't want to have sex so willy nilly for the fear of eternal damnation. Now that's gone, obviously, as you know, governance is now derived from secular value with no basis in text or no meaning, simply because it's what the people want now. That's the thing with like secular governance, is just that once you separate church and state, the basis on which your laws are made have no basis. They're very shaky foundationally, and so um, when that happens, if there's enough popular support for literally anything, then, well, I suppose it's not morally right to do so. You know, if there was enough popular support to say lower the age of consent to like 12, and there was some pseudoscientifical basis behind that, that would be considered morally correct, because there is because if we completely decouple from religious value and praxis, and also scientific value and praxis, because obviously a child's child development at 12 is very young, so don't have sex with them, right? um, which of course goes into my other arguments about pedophilia being the biggest transferee of secular degenerative culture, because sex is so popular within culture, right? Blah blah blah. Basically, if there's enough public support for it, it is just viewed as morally right because enough people support it. Because there is no basis to it. If a billion people supported, you know, I don't know, what's like stealing shit, just stealing a bunch of things for no reason, right? Like, not even because it's like a big corporation bad, right? Which, obviously stealing from a Walmart, who gives a shit? Um, but like, if I just went up and robbed someone, but enough people supported it, then it would just be the law of the land, That's just morally correct. That might even get signed into law, because, well, enough of our citizens support it. We're a democracy, let's have a vote. But, where's I going with all this, right? Yeah, like moral, like sex, right? Sex is morality, and sex is like culture. And when you have this culture of sex being so incredibly important, men degrade themselves into something much less than they are, because they need to acquire that sexual value, and they need to acquire sex itself. Um, and that's why so many young men are so like this fucking early porn introduction and shit like that. I mean, porn is so big. Porn, everyone jerks off, everyone fucking watches porn. My coworkers were literally talking about porn stars as if they were just regular actors. And I felt like I was the only one in the room who was like, this is absurd. I felt like I was an old lady clutching her pearls, being like, my God, you people are talking about this as if it's just normal. Something moved in there. It's probably like a bird or something. Hopefully they don't. Oh yeah, it was a bird, I think. Yeah, there's probably like a big scary monster in there about to kill me. Well, at least I'm filming, right? But when it comes to that, I mean, I feel like incels are probably the closest it gets to understanding that you can devalue sex and not have it be as important, and suddenly women can't impose horrendous cultural values on you. Suddenly women cannot impose disgusting cultural values on you, because you are like free of sexual desire. So something like that needs to be considered, I believe, right? But yeah. So I am like incel adjacent. I don't really believe I just hate women. Um, there's a lot of women that I dislike, but I don't hate women as like a concept. I don't just like, oh, fuck women, dude. Oh, it's more like I despise the cultural norms that have allowed women to degrade themselves to such a point to where having sexual value is the only thing they have. Women shouldn't be making their careers off of sex. Um, it should be a very modest thing. It should be obscene. I believe things should be obscene again. I don't understand why obscenity is gone as a concept. Um, and it's been so entrenched, you know, politically and socially and economically. Obscene concepts are just kind of like acceptable, you know. Um, yeah. I don't know. It's demoralizing. It is because not only I mean you feel as though you are a lesser person when you don't have an absurd amount of sex or have a romantic partner. You feel lesser. That's the thing. It's crippling. It does it is a crippling loneliness. You know, like especially if you're already like a socially isolated young man like myself. You know, like you see all this shit and this talk, even in incel spaces, especially this talk of like all this shit, because it's hard not to be resentful, and I try not to be, and I try not to resent women for existing. But when these cultural values are like pressed upon them so heavily, they become representative of that culture that you despise, and so then you despise that person. You know, the culture of sex, the value of sex. Sex has no value. You know, I'm not an antinatalist by any means, but when you glorify mindless procreation, to what end, right? So you can feel good for 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 4 minutes. I don't know how long sex lasts. That's probably like a fucking Freudian slip there, right? Like, oh, dude, this guy thinks sex lasts for 2 minutes. What a fucking bozo. It's like, to what end? To bring children into a world that hate them? A world that will hate them? To bring more children to suffer into this world? I mean, I don't know. I'm not an antinatalist, and I think it's particularly cringe in Reddit, but at the same time, I understand where they're coming from. The absence of birth is the absence of pain. And if you were not born, then there is no pain to be had. At the same time, there's no joy or like enjoyment of anything of life. But who's to say that you even understand that concept if you're not born, Whatever. But it's I despise it, I really do. And so it's this concept of like militant asexuality, and the militancy part comes from the complete and utter rejection of women being valuable only because of their sexual identity and what they can offer you sexually. Because not only is that degrading to you, it just shows how like it shows a lack of value, to yourself. Because if you believe that a woman, you should put yourself on the same shoes of these women and like interact with these, vagrants, right? Don't want to say the other words, the W word or the S word, because that's a little harsh, is it not? But when you put yourself on the same level of those just for the sake of like a slight possibility of like I could get laid, yes, I could have pussy, yes, it's stupid. It's stupid. Like why put yourself on that level when you value yourself so much as a man? When you want to say that I believe men have value and that they should be doing this, this, and that, and then you immediately like drop to your knees on the level of like no better than these vagrants because because right, because I want pussy. It's lame. That's so lame. That's incredibly lame. But as far as that goes, right? Who knows? I just kind of wanted to explain that. I feel like men should stop valuing women on basis of what they can offer them sexually. because not only does that give the women an extreme power indifference, like difference, you know, it leads to like unhealthy relationships where you just have the man fucking doing anything, bro. You know, you see like screenshots leaked of like embarrassing DMs and shit, and it's like the man is just saying fucking anything. He's just typing shit at this point, and it's like, to what end is this? So you can finally get some pussy, dude? This needs to stop, and the only way to stop it is through like militant asexuality. You need to stop thinking sexual thoughts about women, and then they will stop trying to exert that sexual value over you, and then you will be on equal, if not higher ground than them. Because the only way to stop women from exerting such horrendous sexual value over men is for men to stop caring about pussy. And that kind of goes against programming, but at the same time, that is just stopping lust. And if you're like a God-fearing individual, that should be like something that is at the forefront of your mind. And that's one of the biggest problems I face is lust. You know, because I'm so soul-crushingly lonely that it's like, it's painful. It's painful to see other people in happy relationships and in loving relationships. It is. And I get jealous, and I shouldn't be. I shouldn't be jealous. Because they obviously, either they got lucky or they put in the work for it. Either they had good genetics, or they did a trillion hours of looks maxing to get to the point they were. And, well, you know, you can't blame them. They're going to put another man down for fucking helping himself out? No. It's just like, why can't I have that? And it genuinely is just because I'm such like a social tard. I can't interact socially in real life. I can't. It is genuinely the biggest struggle I have, and like it's almost impossible for me to do so. I do this. I'm talking to this camera right now because if I tried to express these thoughts like to another person, I'd completely flounder. I'd get maybe one sentence in, they'd say, "What are you, a fucking incel? Fuck you," and then they'd stop talking to me, and I'd probably explain something the wrong way as well, right? So, yeah, it's that's why I rely so heavily on like my shitty little YouTube channel that gets no views, which is good. I don't really know if I want it to be popular, because these are very personal thoughts, and this is information that will be revealed and then, you know, taken out of context, and then I lose my job or some shit, right? I don't know. It's not something I want to be widespread, I suppose. But, like, when it gets to that, it's like, I mean, I'm still uploading it online, so I guess there is a part of me that wants me to be like a semi-known figure, right? But I don't want to be famous. I don't want to be world-renowned, unless I was like dead or something. So I know there'd be so much shit. So I'm not like a good person at all. That's something I should very easily clarify. I'm not a good person. I have a very troubled history, and I have a lot of bad personal interactions with people that I'd really, you know, I mean, it's just hard to say, and I don't want to get into specifics because then everyone would be like, "Wow, this guy's a fucking asshole." You know, why should I spend any time watching this guy? He's a fucking dipshit, right? It's just like, well, why should you? Why should you? You know, that's not for me to determine. That's your decision to venture forward and keep watching. But yeah, the spot is pretty cool. There's like a school that way, but obviously it's going to be summer soon, so there's not going to be a school that away. Well, there is still, I mean, it's still going to be there, but there's not going to be like kids running around. I don't really know what this place is supposed to be. It's like a storage unit or something. I don't think it was. I thought it was a storage unit. I don't really think it is because it's got all this stuff. I think it was like a industrial like warehouse just for like workmen or something. But I guess I could show you people some of this stuff. I wanted to. But here, I can take it off the I can take it off the stand here and then just like I suppose I should record more outside, and I want an excuse to use this webcam. But you know, yeah, they've got like epoxy thinner. I guess I could do some exploration. I'm worried the audio will be shitty, but it's alright. So this is like the yeah, it's like a paint stuff. So I think this might have been just like I don't know, it's like a warehouse. I hope they don't think this, because I'm walking here. I hope they don't think this is like a gun or something. I get like stopped by some cop, fucking shot dead immediately. Yeah, that's the maybe it's kind of weird to be filming a school, but there's a school that way. And it kind of, I mean, it would have been yesterday, I think, would have been my graduation date if I was not kicked out of high school. But obviously I graduated like a whole 2 years early. So, God, this place would be cool for plinking, but if there wasn't the fucking school over there, right? It's also pretty close to a highway, so maybe not the best idea. Yeah, just like right here. There's like parking space. Just shoot into the ditch there. Maybe if you had like a 22 or something, but nah. Yeah, so that's where I was filming in that one. And there's one right there, I want to look in there too. But I was just looking for a place to sit, but I don't know if there was like a place to sit. Is the thing? But yeah. A bunch of tires. Wow. Fence? Anyone want a free fence? There's a bunch of pallets too. There's like nuts and bolts and stuff. I don't know what this was for. And I'm not too keen on just opening up random buckets of things. It's gonna be like a fucking uranium. Gonna get like rad poisoning, dude. Fucking die instantly. I'm gonna keep this more steady. Yeah, here it is. So it's got like labels and stuff on it. It's also right next to someone's house too, so maybe just not a good idea to shoot in here. Maybe inside would be a better place, right? I don't know, because maybe that would muffle the sound a little bit. I don't know if I'm looking for places to shoot though. Bird. Yeah. So, this might have been like an old factory. Not a factory. But they're like producing like parts or something. Probably just like a warehouse though. what's funny is that that office still lights up at night. Yeah, general. And this is HVAC stuff. But again, it just looked like a storage space for like workmen. I don't really, I really don't know what this would have been if not just storage. Maybe it's like storage for the school. That might be it. So it's like this is like, oh wait, yeah. So this might, okay. That kind of makes sense to me. It's like, okay, they would have like welding supplies in there and like general supplies and like electrical stuff if they like something broke at the school, and then they just have it here. Yeah, that makes sense, doesn't it? But they probably just upgraded, built some new facilities there, and they just don't need this. Because I bet that would have been annoying. It's like, oh, well, plumbing's broke here at the school. The kids aren't getting water. You gotta run all the way over here. But, I think this one's open as well. I don't know. Yeah, grounds. Yeah, that makes it like school grounds. Be like lawnmowers and stuff in there. Well, I guess this can be incel discussion and urban exploring. It's like a knee pad. What is this? Yeah, it's like a knee pad or something. Yeah, neat. Well, I guess if you're really hurting for a free knee pad. Alright, well. I suppose that's it, but I don't really have anything else to speak about. Just kind of wanted to talk and talk and talk and talk, and that's all I do. But it's alright, I guess. I mean, it's not a substitute for friends by any means, but at least someone's hearing something I have to say. Alright.